in the past couple of episodes, we have looked at a couple of different, just very short overviews of the Passion chronology or the Last Supper chronology, whatever you want to say. I gotta say, I've been studying this a lot, as many people know, and I have to say, this is one of the most hotly debated topics on the internet right now. People are intense about how they talk about these things. And I mean, people, they're not listening to anybody else. They're not listening to, if they have it in their mind, this is how it is. That's it. There's no debate on it, which is interesting. But so this week, I just want to give a very, very short overview of the Essene Hypothesis. So as our listeners already know, there seems to be the major word there. There seems to be a discrepancy between John and the three synoptic gospels. Whereas the synoptic gospels say that it's the first day of unleavened bread, the day that the Passover lambs or the Pascha was sacrificed, which everyone I think would agree, if that was the case, it'd be Nisan 14. This was the day that they had their Last Supper. And this is what all three of the synoptic gospels say. John seems to say otherwise. He seems to place Yeshua's death on the afternoon of Nisan 14 itself. So how could these both be? Well, I think that they match up perfectly well together. However, some scholars have come up with some interesting ways to try to reconcile this. One of those ways is the Essene Hypothesis. This was brought up, I forget the lady's name, a scholar who wrote this in her book. I'll have to look for that reference, and I apologize for not having it in front of me right now. But she was the first one to come up with this hypothesis. The hypothesis is that Yeshua was holding to an Essene calendar. That is a solar calendar. The Essenes or the Qumran community, they held to,
or that John was telling it in. You mean John was telling it, or that Yeshua was?
No. So the synoptics. So they say that the synoptics are telling it from the Essene calendar, and John is telling it from the temple calendar. That is the lunar calendar, seen by and held to by the temple itself. So in John, when it says in 18, I believe it is, where 1828 or 29, where it says that the priests didn't want to enter the praetorium because they wanted to be able to eat. They didn't want to become defiled because they wanted to eat the Pascha. Okay, so the argument is that since John is telling this from the lunar calendar perspective or the temple calendar perspective, that's why the priests didn't want to go in, because they were on this lunar calendar. Whereas since, according to this theory, since Yeshua and his disciples were on a solar calendar held by the Essenes, that they would have come in and they would have eaten the Pascha perhaps a day before this. And this is how you have the varying accounts. It's an innovative way to try to reconcile the Gospels together. I don't think it works out very well. And I think that there's actually, Dr. Petrie talks at length about why this doesn't really work out very well. He's not the only one either. There are other scholars who have shown why this is not exactly a plausible hypothesis. Yeah, that's about it. I could give you the main reason I don't think it's plausible. Do you want to hear that, or have I done enough?
Oh, let's hear it.
Because it seems as though they go to prepare the Pascha, which would mean the lamb, and there's no way that it's the temple wasn't a personal slaughterhouse for the it wasn't a personal butcher for the people of Israel. You can't just go in.
Yeah, bring an animal, slaughter it here, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You can't just go in, give your animal to the priest, have them slit the throat, and throw the blood on the altar, then be like, "Oh, can I have it back now? I'm going to go take it home, roast it on my own fire, and eat it." I mean, there's no evidence whatsoever that the temple was catering to different calendars. And one of the ways that we know this is because the Essenes left. Right? They said it was defiled, but they weren't the only ones. But it seems as though the temple service was strictly regulated. That's
Right.
why.
And Yeshua and the disciples had their railing against the temple was not of a matter that they were going to leave it and go form their own community somewhere. Right. I mean, they were still there. Yeshua was there teaching, and he called you've made my father's house a den of thieves. He's still committed to Jerusalem and to the Temple Mount.
Well, and that's the other thing, is that if he was really in Essene, why would he be celebrating in Jerusalem? Why wouldn't he be up in Qumran with the rest of his sect?
Right.
And why didn't they follow him around and declare him the Prince of Righteousness?
And not only that, why do we not have a record of Yeshua debating about the calendar? Right?
Exactly.
We don't have that. We don't have, and he's engaging with the Pharisees, and Pharisees. We know that there were Pharisees and priests that became believers, but the Sadducees never became believers. We don't have any record in the scriptures of Sadducees becoming believers, and the Sadducees had a different way of looking at a lot of things, including how to count the Omer, which probably shared with the Essenes.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, I think that it's a nice try.
Nice try.
It's a swing and a miss, though.
A valid effort, no doubt.